Hey friends, welcome back to yet some more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. Want it done by the book? Fine, I'll follow every rule. So I work at a company that prides itself on having a detailed, overly complicated policy manual for everything. We've got rules for rules, basically. My manager, let's call him Dave, is the kind of guy who loves micromanaging. He'd constantly hover over our shoulders, pointing out every tiny mistake we made, saying, if it's in the manual, you must follow it. One day, Dave sent me an urgent email asking me to finish a big project before the end of the day. Normally, I'd do it my usual way, efficiently and with a bit of common sense. But Dave insisted that I strictly adhere to the manual, since it was a high-visibility project, and he didn't want any mistakes. Oh, Dave, you shouldn't have said that. I pulled out the manual and went full compliance mode. 1. Every procedure, no matter how small, was followed to the letter. Normally I'd skip pointless steps, like writing a detailed log for every 10-minute task. Not this time. I logged everything. Starting a document? Log it. Saving the file? Log it again. Changing font size? Yep, logged. 2. Requests for approvals? Oh, absolutely. The manual says certain steps need managerial sign-off, so I emailed Dave at least 5 times throughout the day for approvals. Hey Dave, just confirming font size 12 is acceptable? Please reply so I can continue. Hi Dave, should I use blue headers or red headers as per policy section 14.3.2? 3. Breaks were strictly enforced. Policy states we get 2 15-minute breaks and a 1-hour lunch. Normally, I'd work through a bit of lunch to get things done, but not today. At 12 o'clock sharp, I dropped everything and left my desk. I also spent 15 minutes at exactly 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock resting. 4. Every department had to be involved. The manual said I needed sign-offs from IT, HR, and marketing for certain sections, even though they had nothing to do with the project. I looped them in with formal requests, dragging out the timeline. By the end of the day, the project wasn't finished. I spent so much time complying with the manual that I didn't even get halfway through. Dave was furious and asked why it wasn't done. I calmly explained that I followed every single policy and procedure in the manual, just like he instructed. I even showed him the email chain proving he'd approved my steps. After that, Dave stopped breathing down my neck and started letting me work how I wanted. Lesson learned. Sometimes the best way to fix a broken system is to show exactly how broken it is. Retaliating HOA? Meet attack lawyer. A very good friend of mine had an extremely traumatic experience not long enough ago, and as a result doesn't feel comfortable in close proximity with men, with 2 notable exceptions, myself and her father. Only reason I made the cut is she stayed with me while she did rehab, and even then needed a door that locked before she can sleep when I'm in the building. Except that one time she fell into an ice cream coma watching the Lifetime channel, but that doesn't count. When she moved out, she found herself a cute little townhouse not too far away. She was a little bit of an oddity for that complex though. Nothing said it was a 55+ community, but you need to look real hard before you found another person under the age of 40 living there permanently. Which was fine by her. She kept to herself and mostly just stayed inside. At least until she had an unfortunate encounter with the landscaping service the homeowners association used to mow everyone's backyards. The way she tells it, it was a nice spring day and she wanted to open her windows and get some fresh air. The landscapers were mowing, and when she opened her window, she was met with the sight of one of the guys relieving himself in a bush. Rather than do the normal thing and put himself away and flee, he opted to make eye contact and grin and make it as awkward as possible, hand gestures included. Which was all of the nope. Even if you were comfortable around men, that's not okay in any way, shape, or form. Once her anxiety attack wore off, she called the company and complained. Whoever answered the phone said they'd take care of it. How did they take care of it, you ask? The next week, when the landscapers came, rather than urinate in her bushes, the same guy knocked on the door and asked to use her bathroom. He claimed he couldn't pee outside because some little witch complained and he really needed to go. No, he didn't say which. She slammed the door and promptly had another massive anxiety attack. We went through the CC&Rs about the services provided, and found that she couldn't opt out of paying for the landscapers. Nowhere did it say she had to use that service. so she requested that they not enter her patch of yard. I drive over with my push mower every Saturday and do my best to match the pattern the landscapers left, just to keep things tidy. And she started getting fines for her grass being too long. Did you know it's perfectly legal for an HOA to fine you for having grass that is 3.2 inches tall instead of 3 inches tall? That kinda made me mad, but if we're being petty, let's do this. Rather than the infinitely more convenient Saturday afternoon, I showed up maybe half an hour after the landscapers got done with the complex, and did the same thing on a lunch break at work. Fines still kept coming in. So we got creative. She went online and bought a robot lawnmower. Thing can handle a tiny yard like hers in maybe an hour. It's an electric mower, so it's whisper quiet, and we programmed it to run every night and cut the grass to 2.5 inches. Checked the rules again, and nowhere did it say you couldn't install a doghouse-looking charging station for the mower. She named it Rover and gave it some googly eyes and frowny glitter eyebrows. Not being stupid, we also set up a motion-activated camera that was inside of her townhome that could see Rover's house. About a week after Rover completed his first mow, he ran away from home. When we checked the footage, we saw a man approach much too late at night and just yoink Rover. Didn't get a good look at his face, but he definitely looked familiar to my friend. When I checked the complex's dumpster, I found some plastic shards that were the same color as Rover's cover. Their complex has a camera pointed at the dumpster, and it might have gotten a look at whoever had stolen the mower. She emailed the HOA asking for the footage on the night of the crime, and heard absolutely nothing back. It's like that, huh? A few years back, I found myself in a bit of legal trouble, and my boss put me in contact with a friend of his. She's a corporate lawyer, and has told me verbatim she hates what she does for a living, but she very much enjoys the money. So to keep whatever tatters of her soul remain, she occasionally took personal cases as a side gig. She is very, very good at what she does. She also told me flat out, if you're guilty, find someone else. Because if I find out you lied to me in a meaningful way, you'll wish you were someone else's witch in prison. Note, she didn't say which. When I asked what meaningful meant, she just glared and said, "Do not test me." I am terrified of this woman, so I gave her a call. She made room for us on her schedule to talk about what had been happening, and why thermonuclear escalation was necessary. I'm not gonna lie, during the consult I wasn't paying attention. Once the consult was over, I asked how it went, and friend just looked at me and said, "She said she would be delighted to handle this. I have never been so scared of someone saying they're happy. How did you just happen to have a human shark on speed dial? That woman is terrifying." I just grinned. I know, right? The legal stuff took some time to percolate, and my knowledge of law and lawsuits is limited. I won't bother trying to butcher exactly what she did, but from what I understand, she sued both the board and the landscaping company. She asked for an unreasonable amount of money, and based the amount on any sort of claim she felt was vaguely applicable. Hit the pause button on any new fines coming in, somehow, and demanded a bunch of things from the HOA using fancy lawyer methods that seem much more effective than asking nicely. Stuff like financial records, that footage from the night Rover got murdered, emails, text messages, the works. A few months after everything kicked off, we had a meeting with the HOA board, the owner of the landscaping company, and legal representatives for everyone. Evidently, step one of a lawsuit is for everyone to sit down and figure out if they need a referee, or if everyone can just talk it out. I wasn't representing anyone. I was just there as an emotional support human for my friend. I wasn't going to miss this. Still a little upset I didn't bring a snack for the show. On our side of the table, myself, my friend, and our lawyer. On the other side, 3 grumpy old men, 2 grumpy old women, 2 lawyers, and a slightly less old but very grumpy man who owns the landscaping company. 4 of the board members seemed grumpy and confused. The last board member and the landscaping guy just looked grumpy, and both lawyers looked like they wanted to be literally anywhere else. By the end of this meeting, the board will need to elect a new treasurer, and ensure that treasurer follows the HOA board's mandated bidding process when procuring the services of a new landscaping company. The soon-to-be ex-treasurer will provide some compensation to my client for emotional distress and lost property. The soon-to-be ex-landscaping company, which is owned by the soon-to-be ex-treasurer's brother-in-law, will ensure his son does not set foot within a mile of my client ever again, and will also be compensating me for the legal expenses related to this case. And then she smiled. Or, we can go to trial. I saw that smile and thought to myself, Fish are friends, not food. It wasn't even aimed at me and I still got goosebumps. We did not go to trial. As far as I was able to tell, the other 4 board members had no idea about the sexual harassment complaint or the retaliation. They also had no idea they were paying almost double the rate of a comparable landscaping service. The predatory landscaper was actually the owner's son, hence why he was confident enough to act the way he did. We also had clear footage of him smashing Rover and tossing him in the dumpster. They did talk about criminal charges for Junior for his behavior, but my friend just wanted all of it to go away. Just thinking about the process sent her into anxiety land. Wasn't my call, and I respect her choice in the matter. They folded pretty quickly. My lawyer didn't want to take it before a judge, because then the legal expenses would have been paid by the HOA, and everyone's broke these days. The notion of losing never even crossed her mind. She was quite content sticking it to the people who actually deserved it, and I've made a point of never trying to argue with my lawyer. I'll just lose. My friend has since moved out of that townhouse to a new undisclosed location, which is why I can share the story now. Neighbors are upset I filled in a man-made pond that I technically own. For the past several years, I've owned a property in a semi-rural area. It is part of an HOA with only 12 houses, over 1,000 acres, so we don't get much in each other's way. There is a quote common area that abuts my property, and on it there is a pond that is fed via an irrigation headgate on a creek on my property, and a cut that runs from it through my property. I have come to discover this pond is a real pain. One neighbor used to maintain it without making a fuss, but he died. So dealing with it fell to me as the neighbor most affected by it. And it's a pain. People trespass to go fishing or have their dog swim in it. People from outside have come to ice skate on it. Totally not safe. It has silting problems. The headgate needs to be dug out every spring, sometimes multiple times. The cut clogs up and has to be cleared. Then a beaver took up residence and kept blocking the outflow culvert, causing a flood on the neighboring farmer's land. He was rightly pissed, and I got the brunt of it. I was clearing out beaver blockages several days a week. Nobody else in the HOA would help. I did some research and discovered that the water right for the headgate belonged to me alone, and not the association. Whoops. There was no easement for the irrigation cut, and cherry on the sundae, the pond is actually on my property and not common area. Had a survey done just to be sure. I also discovered it wasn't really a pond. It was a hole dug up to provide fill for our road, and the original developer just routed irrigation into the hole and called it a pond. But this explains why it is such a mess. A landowner a mile away is now digging out a proper pond, and he has to pay a ton to dispose of the fill, even though it is clean. I asked if it would help if he could put some of the fill in our pond, and he offered to pay for the privilege. I have also closed the headgate and started draining the pond. Some members of the HOA have been yelling at me that they like the pond, just to look at as they drive out to the main road. So I said, okay, if you like it, pay up to $10K a year for someone to deal with the nonsense. They refused. I said that in that case, the pond is getting filled in and planted with native grass, using the money from taking the fill. They called me selfish. And that's going to be it for today, friends. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more Reddit shenanigans. So take care, and I'll see you next time.